Well, I want to welcome everybody to the conference on Magnetosphere-Ionosphere coupling in the solar system. The same name as 40 years ago, except in the solar system has been added because of the work that's been done at Earth and the new findings at the other planets and the realization of the learning that can take place and the interchange that can take place between the things that have been done at Earth and the coupling and applying that to the planets. It's very special to have all of you here to share knowledge, but also to share in this incredible place. Yosemite, I think, is one of the, maybe arguably, the most magnificent place in the world. It is just incredible in its grandeur. About 40 years ago, Peter Banks and Andy Nagy and I were working on ionosphere, plasma sphere things, and we were trying to figure out how the two linked together. And we always had the difficulty that when we went to an AGU meeting, there were sessions for the magnetospheric people, and then there were sessions for the ionospheric people by necessity, but there was not very much overlap in the sessions. And I was working on the plasma sphere, and sometimes I was in a magnetospheric session, but most of the time I was in an ionospheric session, and it was very difficult to kind of link and talk about the plasma sphere in those two different communities. And so we decided that we would try to do a topical conference. This was before Chapman conferences, to do a topical conference to get people from magnetosphere and people from ionosphere to come to a place and sort of teach each other about what their interests were. And that gave us the idea for this conference. And we talked to Fred Spillhouse back then, and there was interest in starting a Chapman conference series, and that was in the works. But the first meeting that we had here in '74 was before Chapman conferences had been formalized. The second meeting here in '76 was, I think, the first Chapman conference, certainly the first Chapman conference in space physics. So we had both, Peter and I had been to meetings that Billy McCormick put on back then, and Billy had the idea that if you could take people and put them together in a remote place, that they would interact more with each other, and the remoter the place was, for Billy, the remoter the place was, the better. So the first one I went to was in an agricultural college about an hour train ride outside of Oslo, and there wasn't anything there except the agricultural college. Peter came to that and spoke fervently about the polar wind, and that worked, but we decided, it would be great if we did it in a remote place that was, had some other special things about it. So we thought about Yosemite. Now, Peter had also been to some of the Norwegian conferences in which they gave the afternoon off so that you could exercise or interact with each other, do whatever you wanted to do. So we kind of combined those two ideas to make the Yosemite conference. And I think that basically that approach has been used now many, many times over the past 40 years. Erwin Smerling was good enough to give us some funding from NASA headquarters. NSF gave us a little funding, and we worked with AGU, and things came together. As we were planning the meeting, Dick Hoke, who was at the Battelle Northwest Laboratory, mentioned the possibility of videotaping the first meeting. And they had a videotape unit at Battelle, and he talked to the management and convinced them that this was going to be an interesting scientific thing, and so maybe they could contribute the videotaping, which they did. They videotaped it in '74, and they videotaped the next one in '76. And so we have I've been carrying around cardboard boxes full of 3/4-inch cassettes. These things weigh about 5 pounds apiece, with almost all of the tapes from those two meetings. And so this time we were able to get some funding from NASA. Dave Klumpar helped us a great deal, Jim Green, and then also Ray Walker at NSF. And NASA has put in the resources to digitize all of the tapes that were originally made. So we have about 20 hours of tapes digitized, and they will all be put online. Both the original one and the one that's being videotaped now will be online at Utah State University. They'll be part of the special collections in the library, and you will be able to get those and use them in whatever way you like. Certainly it shows the way the science has changed over 4 decades, really 4 generations, 3 or 4 generations of scientists, and how science itself and the people who do it have changed over that period of time. I think in preparing for this meeting, for me, there were a lot of feelings of excitement about the advances that have taken place in the science. But there was a very strong, maybe even stronger feeling of collegiality and friendship that grows between all of us as we sort of do our space exploration together. And it's almost, this 40-year period is almost a career's worth of work. So we have here an intermixing of people who've been in space exploration almost from the beginning of space exploration and several succeeding generations, and we all sort of get to share what we know and enjoy the fact that we are able to have colleagues of the type that everyone here is and can enjoy the exploration adventure that we're part of and share it with a lot of different people. So it's a chance to remember the way we were, for those of you who were here or who have come to Yosemite meetings, and it's a chance to look to the future in terms of where this whole topic of magnetosphere-ionosphere coupling is going. So for those of you who've been here before, welcome home. For those of you who have not been here before, welcome to Yosemite, and I'm sure it will become a part of your life like it has for all of us who've been here many times.